for something. And all of a sudden, we saw the police cars, the pickups, and they came here. Nobody was allowed to pass through the road. So it was around 5:30. We saw them with the guy who kidnapped those girls. They entered there. They kept long, around 6:30. Then we saw them going back with a packed things in an empty boxes. So they packed those things in boxes, then they took them away.
The assembly member for the TAKORADI area had this to say.
When the news break out, we team up with our district commander at ICYMI team and other security apparatus to help us to even come out with a concrete information that will enable us to retrieve those guys. And after that, we haven't taken it for granted. Day in, day out, you considering monitoring and even wanted to know if somebody have a source and know where these guys are. So since then, we haven't been able to. And we are still continuing to, till yesterday, this news break out.
It will be recalled that the chief state attorney on the case of the 3 TAKORADI kidnapped girls, Patience Klinogo, on Wednesday told the court that the Nigerian standing trial for the crime, Samuel Wills and John Oji, used coded language to discuss kidnapping and other crimes in their conversations on the social media networking platform, Facebook. She revealed that the accused persons used a language that related to kidnapping and blood sacrifice. The 2 suspects have been charged with 6 counts of conspiracy to commit crime and kidnapping. The state attorney told the court that their interaction was detected on a mobile phone of the second accused, John Oji, after police arrested him on June 4, 2019 at Aflawo, around the Ghana-Togo border. The Secondary High Court judge further revealed various mobile phone numbers that were traced to the 2 accused persons after they used them to receive money from victims' relations. The prime suspect in the kidnapping, Samuel Wills, was slapped with an 18-month imprisonment for escaping from cells in December 2018 after his arrest. During this period, the inhabitants of TAKORADI's Sekondi metropolis have expressed concerns over the dead slow pace of police investigations into the matter. Some groups held a demonstration and also petitioned the president from the Sekondi Regional Coordinating Council over the matter. Ruth Quayson, Priscilla Blessing Bentum, and Priscilla Cranchi are said to have been kidnapped between August 2018 and January 2019.
Meanwhile, some of the affected families have rejected any possibility of the human remains being that of the missing girls, even as the police continues with its forensic investigations. Western Region correspondent Emmanuel Ohinijan reports.
The families of the 3 TAKORADI missing girls say they do not believe their relatives are dead. Their comments follow Friday evening's operation carried out by a team of police personnel from the Criminal Investigations Department and the Western Regional Police Command in an uncompleted building at Kansaredu near the Methodist Senior High School Girls' Hostel, where the first accused Samuel Wills was living. During the operation, the police retrieved some remains suspected to be human parts from a septic tank close to the house. Kate Quayson, an elderly sister of Ruth Love Quayson, the second kidnapped girl, had misgivings about the police operation.
If the bodies are there, even if one thing is rotten, even if a fish is rotten, you can't even stand that premises. So how can they tell us that the 3 bodies were buried there and nobody smelled anything, nobody... No, it's not possible. We will never believe that it's our sisters or it's the 3 girls, because since now no police men has called us, nobody has called us, so we don't think the story is true.
Francis Bentum, father of Priscilla Blessing Bentum, the first girl to be kidnapped, also told GH1 News that after visiting the crime scene Friday evening about 8:30 p.m, himself, and after the police had left, got convinced that the human remains could not be that of his missing daughter.
Because I am and Nyamion Dedi, on my hand about time, you there. But from that time, I be seen there. Minyat and Kabia them, Ben Wu, Tamim them, Wokuhundo, and Yamofomana.
Right, so those are relatives of the missing girls expressing their thoughts on exactly what transpired yesterday following the police operation at Kansawrodo. In a bit, we'll engage security analyst Adam Bona on the line. But in the studio with me is the spokesperson for the 3 affected families, Michael Hayford. Michael, thanks for joining us tonight.
You're welcome.
How did the operation and its aftermath come to you yesterday?
I was in the bus coming to Accra. When I heard the information, people were calling me here and then that these are the information out there. And I was like, how can police, they told us they have, how do you call it, liaison officers, which they will be communicating with us if they have any information. And then suddenly information is coming out with that from Ghana Police Service. And then around 8, 9 o'clock, then realized that it is true that police have released some press statements. And we were like, no, we can't take it. So I tried possible ways to communicate with all the 3 families that we can't take it. And we know that it's impossible. You know, the cops that they are talking about is our lovely sister that we are looking for.
Okay, I'll return to you shortly with a few other questions because we need to understand a few things. But Adam Bona is on the line. And Adam, thanks for joining us also. So the police carries out an operation, retrieves 2, skulls, we are told. Too late or better late than ever?
Well, good evening to the spokesperson of the victims' representative in your studio. Well, it is too early, for us to point to the fact that the skulls they found or they retrieved are that of the victims or the missing girls. Until forensic lab test is done or DNA test is done, it would be wrong to conclude that it is them. And so for me, I think that we've got to keep our fingers crossed, hoping, cautiously optimistic that the girls are still missing and they are alive and healthy until such a time that the DNA or the lab test comes out and it is confirmed that it is them. Until that time, we can't conclude, no.
Okay, now back to my question. There are some who have expressed the view that this operation should have taken place long ago because this man has been in the custody of the police for a very long time. What are your thoughts?
No, anyone who says that probably, I would say, might not be right unless, of course, the police from the word go treated this as a homicide case. When I say homicide case, where someone is dead through unnatural causes, and therefore when the first suspect was arrested, if the police actually had any information that the victims have been murdered or they were dead, then one would say it would be good to go and start excavating everywhere. And so as far as I'm concerned, it is too early, days yet for us to conclude that what they found are actually that of the victims. Anyone who knows about how these things are done, people in other places, people are murdered and, buried in garages, and the police will comb round because as far as the police usually are concerned, they are still looking for missing persons who every information available to them points to the fact that those people are supposed to be alive.
Right. Just to dwell on the last point you made, the police clearly indicated in the statement, which I have here, that they went there as part of investigating the TAKORADI missing girls.
Yeah. And so what it means is that, and if I'm sure you are aware, the eyewitness accounts yesterday around this time at the venue,
right?
The crime scene, the suspected crime scene. The first suspect was suspected to be with the police or the crime scene investigators who were at the scene to retrieve the skulls. And so it means that at a point, these people might have, the suspects might have spoken to the police, pointing to some skulls that are hidden somewhere or buried somewhere. And so sometimes you need to get information, available information that will lead you to where some of these things are. And also remember that until the second suspect was arrested, there's a second suspect who was arrested in Togo, another Nigerian who was arrested in Togo by the CID.
Right.
And when he was arrested, there has been, a lot of movement among the Ghanaian investigators and the Nigerian investigators. Nigerian investigators actually came into this country to interrogate these people. And these, our investigators also, went to Nigeria, as far as I'm concerned. And so I knew that there were a lot of movements around this, and we are still hoping that these girls will be found alive. But as far as I'm concerned, we don't have to rush into concluding that these are the victims until a forensic test is done to establish whether it is them or not.
Right. I think that point has been made clearly, but I want you to respond to this briefly. I'm sure you would recall that a few months back, we had the CID boss indicate that they know where the girls are and that they were safe. Just yesterday, an operation is carried out. Human remains are discovered. We are told that forensic investigation is being conducted to ascertain whether indeed these are the remains of the missing girls. Now, you gauge the reaction on social media, and it looks like the public confidence in the police is slowly and gradually waning. Do you think the police is really being sincere, or they know exactly what they are doing on this matter?
Well, I think that, one cannot fault the public when the police, when it comes to some of these issues. But policing, we have to be careful what we put out there. But the truth is that all over the world, when issues of this nature happen, the public usually have a certain high expectation of the police, performing or doing magic. But that is not how these things work, especially when it comes to missing persons who have gone missing more than 48 hours. Once they go more than 48 hours, then the police would have to continue to, reassure the public that we are doing something about it. And so what I can say, I'm not a spokesperson for the police, but what I can say, working closely with them, is that the police seems to know what they are doing. The only thing is that the general public would have to continue to support the police so that the police are able to, bring a closure to this whole issue. And I think the spokesperson in the studio did say the police should have informed them when they were going to this area. It doesn't work that way. The police were visiting a suspected crime scene, and therefore the police cannot come and tell you every movement they are undertaking. And so as far as I'm concerned, I think that, yes, it is. We are all worried, but they are more worried than those of us who are a bit far away from these people who are missing. They should be, they should support the police but in doing that, they should have their expectations. They need to probably manage their expectations by not hoping that the police would have to, everything the police is going to do, the police must tell them. And even the press release, I did hear him say they should have told them about the press release. I think that sometimes they should also manage some of these things because the police is an independent institution, is an institution that is working on this, and therefore, if we are not careful, we will, the public against the police, and in so doing, if you have a police that is not professional, then we have issues. And so I think that there has to be a certain balance when it comes to dealing with these issues. Dealing with this issue, there has to be a certain balance.
Thank you very much. Adam Bona is a security analyst, throwing more light on this issue and what he thinks about how the police is going about this matter. In a bit, I'll wrap up my conversation with a spokesperson of the 3 affected families and also tell you about a poll we ran on social media about what you think about the operation that was carried out by the police yesterday. But the Western Regional Security Council is currently meeting following the exhumation of some body parts as part of investigations into the whereabouts of the 3 TAKORADI missing girls. Now, the Western Regional Minister, who doubles as the head of the Regional Security Council, Kwabena Ochiri-Darko-Mensah, speaking to GH1 News, called on the affected families and the public to allow the police conduct the forensic test before drawing any conclusions.
Heart goes out to the families for missing the children all this while. Secondly, you also realize that the police has been doing a yeoman's job on the suspects. I mean, currently as we speak, we have 3 suspects in the cooler, and they have been given the list as to what the police have been communicating and where we have gotten to. I believe that it's from this information that we've gotten that we've been able to get to this initial conclusion of finding them somewhere around Kasarwa. So we are currently going to have a regional security meeting, and I believe that the necessary communication that we need to give to the public will also be given. I strongly believe that we'll come to a conclusion on this matter very soon. We have to be circumspect in whatever we say, and not until the DNA is done and we all can see that this is it. I think that we should be circumspect, and then we can plan our ways forward into the future on how to handle these matters.
Right. And so, Hereford, you can clearly hear from major stakeholders in this matter that you need to keep your calm as the police continue to work assiduously to bring closure to this matter. How do you respond to that?
What we are, as a the 3 family are saying that whatever it is, we don't agree to that the corpse that we have found is our lovely sisters.
But nobody has made that.
But that is the information out there.
Nobody has. It was a misinformation. But nobody has made that claim. Even the police in the statement indicated clearly that until the forensic tests are conducted, no such conclusion should be drawn. Okay. And so that claim is invalid.
We are support of it. We are support of it. But what we are saying is that we have told the Ghana Police Service that whatever that is happening, the investigation and the other stuff, the family wants to be friends to the courts, and they rejected us. Now that they want to do DNA test, they want to engage the family, and we have made some allegations. That allegation that we have made, so
okay, so you have been engaged on the forensic test.
Yes, please.
And when was this engagement done?
That was earlier on. They make the first arrest, as in the Samuel Wilson, and they make the second arrest. We told them that we want to be friends to the court. They said no, they didn't engage us. So now that they know that this girl has a family, that they are coming for DNA test. We are also saying that the police people that we have alleged case against them, they need to be arrested because they have transferred them. So they arrested those police officers, which is named by Oforidonko and Ametepe. We are not going to allow any of the family member to do the DNA test.
Okay, so you are not going to cooperate with the police on the test that they are running?
On this stage, no.
Why?
Because anything at all can happen. Anything at all
when you
can
say
happen.
Anything at all can happen,
but someone is in police custody. Someone is in police custody, and the person is chatting with someone out there on Facebook.
How do you ascertain that?
Just find out the last court that they went. Okay. The judge asked the second suspect that on February that they have arrested the first suspect. There was conversation taking place, which is blood.
I'm afraid we can't independently verify this claim, but we'll try and get the police. Yeah. And as and when we're able to get the police, we would have that question put to them, and we'll get some responses.
The 3 family are coming to. We are having a press conference, God willing, Tuesday at Mr. Biggs. Whatever it is, people will get to know the family's concerns.
All right. Just stay there for me. No, don't go yet. But let's check out our poll on Facebook on this very particular issue. Some of you have been voting on your thoughts on the operation that was carried out by the police last night. So let's look at that poll. And I'm not sure. So these are comments, actually. And this one from Ableta Francis. And it says, for you to ask this question is just a sign of incompetence at the police CID. So we're asking whether you thought that the operation carried out by the police is reassuring or it was rather too late. Okay, so that's the poll. What do you make of the operation carried out by the police CID on the 3 Takoradi missing girls? And you have an overwhelming 89% say that, well, it is too late, and 11% saying that it is reassuring. But of course, we have heard from Adam Bona that these are security matters, and so he believes that the police, they know exactly what they're doing. On that note, we'll close the chapter on the missing Takoradi girls and talk about another issue that has been raging for some time now, and it has to do with the 44 Ghanaians that were gruesomely murdered in Gambia. Now, 2 Gambian soldiers working for a hit squad controlled by former President Yahya Jammeh have admitted to participating in the 2005 execution of 56 West African migrants, including 44 Ghanaians on the orders of Jammeh. Now, speaking to the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission as part of investigations into the Yahya Jammeh era from 1994 to 2017, now one of the soldiers, Corporal Omar Jallo, revealed that the 44 Ghanaian migrants were executed by the Jungler Squad, a paramilitary force that took orders from Jammeh across the Gambian border in Senegalese territory.
The soldier, Omar Jallo, has come out to admit that he and his colleagues murdered some 56 migrants, 44 of which were Ghanaian. According to him, this massacre was carried out under the instructions of the head of state, calling the victims mercenaries. He was speaking at a sitting of the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission, a truth commission in the Gambia, to investigate the Yahya Jammeh era from 1994 to 2017.
You have participated in the following killings. You have participated in the execution of the Ghanaians. Correct. Correct. You were there when over 30 Ghanaians were killed. Correct. Correct. In the subsequent operation, 15 other foreign nationals were killed. That one, I did not participate in that. I understand that. And your group, the junglers, killed another 8 Ghanaians who were dumped at the beach site around Ghana town. Council nena lolu yegnako way sen group bokana ci ñi rey juroom ñetti Ghanaians nga xamne rey nañ len ñu sani len ci beach bi bori Ghana town. Wow, yes. You participated in the torture of 3 important imams in the country. Bokanga biñu titatu ñetti imam nga xamne tienañ len ba pare ñu titatu len dal. Wow. Yes.
Omar Jallo was a member of the infamous hit squad of Yahya Jammeh, called the Junglers. Little was known of the group and its modus operandi until 3 of the members decided to speak to the commission. In Omar Jallo's statement, he described the act of terror and narrates how the foreigners were killed.
Your testimony is that you were told at the outset that Yahya Jammeh ordered the execution of these 30 people. Correct. Where in Banjul did they pick the Ghanaians up?
It was in Banjul. It was, you see, coconut resident, coconut resident. When you pass coconut resident,
yes,
there is a wide. And when you turn on your right, there is this tall, white building. It's where we picked them from. They were being secured by the paramilitaries. The order from the head of state, the former president Yahya Jammeh, is they are all to be executed.
Tell us how the killings occurred.
We are transporting them one by one to the firing ground.
Many people have come out to accuse the former president of atrocious acts, such as rape and sexual assault on top of the murder, torture and others that he oversaw. The commission led by Lamin J. Sise was responsible for probing into these alleged acts, which took place within the era of Yahya Jammeh. It is expected that the findings of the commission would spark calls by human rights activists for the expedition of Yahya Jammeh from Equatorial Guinea, where he has taken refuge.
A very staggering revelation, I must say. But with me in the studio tonight for a conversation on this matter, William Nyakon is Executive Director for the Africa Center for International Law and Accountability. He's also Campaign Coordinator for Jammeh to Justice Ghana campaign. We also have Enoch Amomensa. He sadly lost his father to the massacre. Gentlemen, you're welcome to the studio.
Thanks for having me.
Let me start off with Enoch. How are you feeling?
We have to just sometimes make some of this smile, but it's very sad. And to see your father, I never believed my father was dead till I saw this video. Okay. And you know, the guy said if they face them, they shoot you, you fall in the pit. And that's why I believed that my dad was dead. And the last time I saw my dad, it was joy, and he told us that he's coming back for us. You know, to hear that, man, is heartbreaking.
Okay. Now I know when your father died, or when your father was killed, you were 10.
Sure.
I don't mean to evoke, sad memories, but what can you remember many years on?
Okay, so I remember when he was taking off that night. I was there in the hall with my mom, and my mom was telling him, he was saying in our dialect that Kwame enko menko biem. I said, and I remember I was sitting in the chair, and my mom was crying that don't go. I don't know what my mom felt, that don't go. And my mom even slapped him, and he said, Abna, I'll come back. He kissed my mom, and all of us thought, and that was it. And after that, the next time we heard was Martin came to our family house that our father was dead. And at the age of 10, you can imagine, school, everything. My senior brother, for instance, he was very good in Kumasi High School. His school, everything dropped. He was the best school before, the best student before the issue happened. And after that, everything just dropped. You understand? Then university, everything just went, because he was the one paying our fees, everything. School, sometimes you have to drop out of school because nobody is there to cater for you, because your dad, my mom was the only one, and he can't, because she can't do everything for us. And this man, our hope, our everything was gone because of one man's selfish interest. Well,
I know how you feel, but let's try and manage ourselves. Let me return to William and ask you, this revelation by the soldiers obviously will give a big fillip to the campaign you have been running. You don't think so?
It is, actually. But first, deep condolences again to Enoch, and also for him, standing up to this point and continuing. That's progress. So yes, this revelation, it's mind-boggling. But we must say that before this came out publicly, our partners, Human Rights Watch and Try International, we have been working together on this. And as you recall, last year, we were able to come up with this revelation. Human Rights Watch and Try International having spoken to 33 officials who were involved in this matter. But this is the first time that has come out publicly that everybody could hear. And it's actually also, energizing the campaign. We started last year and been working steadily towards that, being to Senegal and Gambia, retracing the steps. And so this public revelation is coming up. We also know that next week there will be more coming up on this, but following that, we've seen
the commission sittings are still ongoing.
They are still ongoing. They're actually examining human rights violations from 1994 to January 2017, and this is the Yahya Jammeh era. And so they are now in 2004, 2005. So they will be going from year to year. So yeah, this is energizing the campaign and also providing the necessary fillip and encouragement that eventually we will be getting to the end of seeing justice and compensation for the families of victims.
I know the last time you were at the ECOWAS court, getting solid evidence was a challenge. Are you looking at returning?
Yeah, but on this, it will be a civil claim, but we are also re-examining the strategy because the ECOWAS court, it did not have the human rights bit until 2005. It didn't come into force until it was ratified. So in a way, it is possible that this matter, unfortunately, may be barred by the ECOWAS Court of Justice, but we are looking at other ways, other courts, the African Court on Human and People's Rights as well. We can also encourage the state of Ghana to, file a case against the Gambia at the International Court of Justice. But Ghana also has jurisdiction to look into the criminal aspects of the matter.
Okay, I'll come to you and we'll talk about some concerns, or should I say assertions by some Gambian nationals who say that some monies were given as far back as 2009, $500,000, and so in their opinion, they should bring closure to this case. But Enoch, I know that last year a request was made to the government to actually fast-track the process for Jammeh to be extradited and face prosecution. How has response been so far?
Really, I think last year the CDD and the international bodies involved did a very good effort to the road, but they said they'll get back to us, they'll get back to us, they'll get back. But when are we going to wait for the government? Every time, the last letter I saw, they said they are still doing investigations. This investigation that came recently, these two people that came out, there's nothing the government need to do or to wait for, that just to go, because $500,000, whatever it is, can't bring back those lives. It can't.
Okay.
We've lost a future, we've lost a hope. And whatever they are doing, our current president was the foreign minister then. The IGP that was just removed he was part of the squad that went there. And you know that this guy is the prime suspect. So whatever they are doing, they are slowing the issue. And I believe the earlier they take on the matter and give justice to that man, bring him to books. If he has to come to Ghana for him to be punished, whatever that, if even he needs to be executed, they must execute him.
Okay. And I'm sure that the government would give you a response, because I know just a few weeks ago you sent a petition, or was it just a few days ago?
Yeah, I think 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. So a petition, hopefully you get a response on what is happening to your request. But he talks about extradition, which we have talked about, a number of times. How would this be done? This is a question that has been asked a number of times.
Yeah. So I mean, when you look at we argue that the Courts Act give the Ghanaian courts jurisdiction to try cases as if they were committed in Ghana, so against Ghanaian citizens, whether the person is a Ghanaian or not. That's the extraterritorial application of the law. There are challenges to a bit of that. But if you take the Courts Act and then you take the amended Criminal Code, Offences Code, it was amended in 2012, and there the crime of enforced disappearance was inserted into that. So you have to look at the potential crimes, and one of them obviously is enforced disappearance. And enforced disappearance is it's a continuing crime so long as the bodies were not found. So even though the Criminal Offences Code was amended in 2012, which will raise issues of retroactive application of the law, because the event happened in 2005. Here, there will be no retroactivity application problems, because we still have people who have not been found. As you know, 8 bodies were brought in 2009 for burial.
The others remain
unaccounted for. So what the crime of enforced disappearance seeks to do is to deal with the situation where people will be killed and they will be, you will hide them. So we believe that the courts in Ghana will have jurisdiction to look into this case. Of course, there's also potential crimes of torture was involved. Ghana has ratified the Torture Convention. And we have torture in our statutes. Now, there is the issue about extradition, which you were getting to. As you know, Yahya Jammeh is in Equatorial Guinea. And therefore, if Ghana were to prosecute, if the state were to finish its own investigations, and if it were to find that there was a legal basis for us to seek his extradition, we don't have an extradition treaty with Equatorial Guinea, but where there is none, one can be established by committee. But also on the crime of torture, Ghana has ratified the Torture Convention. Equatorial Guinea has also ratified that. And under the Torture Convention, if a crime or the potential crime of torture is established and we seek the extradition, and President Obiang of Equatorial Guinea decides that he will not let us have Yahya Jammeh, he would be under an obligation to either extradite or prosecute him.
Okay. In a few minutes, touch on the $500,000 compensation that was supposedly handed over to the state.
So as you know, in 2005 when this matter happened, Ghana and the Gambia, there was some impasse between them because, killing 44 of your nationals is not. If you aggregate all the killings that occurred during Yahya Jammeh's regime of Gambians, they don't come up to that. So Ghana obviously was upset. Ghana tried to investigate the matter. It was frustrated by the Gambia. Eventually, ECOWAS and your UN established a 3-man investigative team that concluded inconclusively that the killings might have been done by rogue elements not connected to the state. And that's a very important determination they made, even though it was wrong, because the principle of state responsibility required that if a person, an agent of state, committed an offense, it attaches to the state. So based on the ECOWAS UN report, they decided therefore that Yahya Jammeh said that he was going to give 500,000 United States dollars on a humanitarian basis.
Right, but for the sake of time, so that's occurrence is inconsequential to your pursuit.
It is not compensation because Yahya Jammeh did not admit responsibility. Compensation requires a finding and acceptance of fault. He did not accept fault. And therefore, it is not compensation. You do not kill people and say, I'll give you money to bury your people. That's what he said. That he's giving the money to Ghanaians to bury their dead.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming to the studio. I'm sure this is a conversation that will continue some other time. But William Nyako is Executive Director for the Africa Center for International Law and Accountability. He's also the campaigner or the campaign coordinator for Jammeh to Justice. Enoch Amomensa sadly lost his father in that gruesome massacre. So that'll be it for the Jammeh issue. But let's talk about another issue, and it has to do with the Center for Democratic Development, talking about the fact that it looks like the generality of Ghanaians is construing the role of lawmakers. And so the Deputy Executive Director for the Center, Dr. Franklin Odro, has observed, based on that study, that Ghanaians view members of parliament as development agents rather than lawmakers. Now, these observations, he says, were made in the run-up to the 2016 elections. Dr. Franklin Odro spoke at the launch of a CDD and Osiwa reports based on the 2016 general elections.
2016 Promoting Policy Issue-Based Debate at the Constituency Level project was to help address both the poor demand for accountability on the part of citizens and the lack of supply of accountability from elected officials. It took place in 43 constituencies across all regions of Ghana, providing an avenue for inclusive electoral management.
Focusing on the constituency level and targeting parliamentary candidates, the project had the intent to provide opportunities for all citizens, more importantly the marginalized groups, such as persons with disabilities, persons living with HIV and AIDS, women and the youth, to interact with potential legislators on policy and developmental issues that affected their lives and communities. The Center collaborated with the National Commission on Civic Education in some of the constituencies.
The question on the lips of many constituents is, why doesn't my MP do what he or she says they would do in their campaign promises?
99% or more of all the issues that were discussed at the debates were actually matters relating to executive responsibility. I don't recall on any occasion that at any of the meetings, the question that was asked related to my work in Parliament. It brings to question, really, what is it that voters who came to vote for us expect of us as members of Parliament?
According to the report's findings, some constituents feel MPs are irresponsible and reckless with the Assembly's money. However, they aren't the ones that hold the public purse, according to the senior legislator.
The MP is not a spending officer. All you get to know is that the Common Fund Administrator giving you a letter that 70,000 cedis have been credited to you and is paid into account A, B, C, or D. The signatories to that account is the district or municipal chief executive and the municipal finance officer. But they are not supposed to spend without your intervention. But my colleague here is a former MCA and he can attest that often they spend it without our intervention.
Many issues were raised from the report, which attempted to promote policy issue-based debate at the constituency level. It was a platform started in 2004 for parliamentary candidates to propagate their campaign messages to the electorates. After the initial stages, the team realised the need to assess post-election activities to ensure accountability for those that voted.
Sure that they reflect a little bit, that they make sure that what they are promising are things that they can deliver upon or not, etc. So we think that this is part of the mechanism that can sustain the trust of citizens in election, the trust of citizens in democracy and so on. That is why we are supporting this.
Stakeholders reckon expectations of MPs and their constituents must be managed at all times so that all will achieve and receive what was promised.
You're still watching News Tonight on GH1 TV. My name is Ridwan Karim Dini Osman. Let's have a quick conversation on this issue. Dr. Franklin Odro is in charge of programs and also Deputy Executive Director at the Center for Democratic Development, Ghana. Doc, you're welcome.
Thank you.
To the program tonight. Now, when the story hits our platforms on the various, social media platforms that we have, I mean, when you sum the reactions from social media users, they say that the politicians, the lawmakers tend to shape the expectations of the electorate. And so it's not surprising that your report is capturing this.
Well, I mean, first of all, let me put this in context, right? This was a report that captured the proceedings of debate platform that we created ahead of 2016 elections. This is something that the CDD has been doing since 2004, where we try to create a platform where candidates or aspiring candidates interact with their constituents to sort of tell them what they should expect from them if they vote for them. And I think at the center of the report, and from 2004, 2008, 2012, 2016, what we find, what is consistent with other studies that have been done by CDD and other bodies, is how there is some kind of a disconnect between the expectations of constituents and members of parliament in terms of what they expect members of parliament to do. And I think it is very disturbing in the sense that both aspirants and members of parliament are guilty as much as citizens and electorates as well, because citizens or electorates expect or sees members of parliament to provide developmental goods.
Because they go with lofty promises.
That's what I'm saying, that I blame the aspirants and MPs as well, because they also promise. If you take a look at the report, you will notice some kind of gargantuan promises that aspirants and candidates and citizen MPs make, which you will know definitely that this is not the role of MP. Right. That I'm going to provide roads, I'm going to build schools, I'm going to build clinics, I'm going to find new jobs, I'm going to, things that are outside of the core mandate of member of parliament. I think consistently, electorates, expect those things from MPs, and they also promise that they're going to give them, and which we have to have a conversation on, because that is very disturbing for our democracy.
Okay, and I saw the first deputy speaker at the launch of this report. What action has the leadership in parliament assured you of on this report?
Well, that's very interesting. They haven't assured us of anything, but I think they are also concerned. In fact, the first deputy speaker, if you listen to him, and this is not the first time, I think consistently he's been talking about trying to change the narrative in our body politics. In terms of trying to make citizens and electors understand the role of Parliament. But a lot also has to be done on the part of MPs, because you don't go out there to promise something that you cannot do. Because your role as a member of Parliament is to make laws, is to provide oversight, and to represent your constituency. Representing your constituency does not mean that you are going to say, I'm going to provide you roads. What it means is making sure that the executive, which also includes assemblies and DCs or MCAs, who are responsible, who are development agents, who are provided with the resources, provide the kind of goods that your constituency needs. And that kind of oversight is something that, for a very long time, I believe that our parliament have not been doing a good job with that.
Okay. And in wrapping up, have you furnished the National Commission on Civic Education with this report?
No, yes, we've shared with them. In fact, they themselves have been doing, I think I must admit that the NCC has also been doing quite a job in that. In fact, in the 2016 elections, there were several of the constituencies that we partnered and jointly with NCC conducted this kind of debate. But I think it's a collective effort. Not only the NCC, but the media and civil society actors, especially those of us who do democracy and governance work, to step up with the awareness, education on the part of electorate. But I think the MPs also have to be very honest with themselves and go out there to sort of explain to them what their roles are, so that people will have less expectations of them as being developmental agents.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Dr. Franklin Oduro is Deputy Executive Director for the Center for Democratic Development, Ghana. He also manages their programs. Let's take you to Peduase and talk about an event that went down earlier today. And it was a test of fitness and stamina when over 300 loyal listeners of Star FM participated in this year's corporate walk. Now, the occasion was also formed part of activities to mark the 5 years anniversary of Star FM since its emergence in the media landscape. CEO of the EIB network, Nathan Kwabena Anochie DC, indicated that Star FM's record in the media industry is worth emulating.
From the banking sector to telecommunications and the insurance sector, participants gathered at the foot of Mensa as early as 6 a.m. to participate in the walk. And they were evenly represented, the young and the old. The atmosphere was charged with various Jama songs and cheers from patrons. The walk started. Some took it slow, others walked fast. In time, fatigue set in, but the determination to get to the top spurred many on to walk the mile.
You can see my stretcher, and it's not easy at all. With my stretcher in this road, it's not easy.
Actually, my first time of climbing the hill here, and I think it's exciting, and glad to be part of the EIB family. And I'm sure I would have to continue after this one to make sure I get fit. If you can see, my tummy's out, and I have to exercise often to get it back to shape.
On reaching the top, participants were taken through an aerobic and workout session led by instructors. The walk is in line with programs and activities to mark the 5-year celebration of Star FM, by far Ghana's favorite radio station. Chief Executive Officer of EIB Network, Nathan Kwabena Anochie DC, popularly known as Bolare, indicated that the standards set by Star FM in the media landscape was worth emulating. He spoke of plans to introduce new programs to grow the listenership and viewership of Star FM and GH1 TV.
So we started and rebranded a program known as All That Jazz. So it's on every Sunday evening. We also have books and more, where we actually, do some book reading, educate and sensitize, and also inform the public. And I think it's great. We are revamping some of our shows. We've got in some new hosts as well, and we're taking it to the next level. And some news is that we're signing off an agreement with the BBC.
Co-host of Star Drive, Cookie, expressed her happiness in working with one of the best stations in the country.
I joined the family not too long ago, but it's evidence that it's been great work that has been done, and we are just here to add on. We are expecting to reach a lot more people. I think that with this whole awareness, even if you don't know about Star, now you know about Star.
Kofi Otredakon, KOD, couldn't agree more with his co-host Cookie and promised listeners of the program more surprises.
We have been giving people a lot of surprises as part of our 5th anniversary, and we're doing it for the rest of the month. So for the rest of the month of August, it's just amazing stuff happening on Star Drive. We have something amazing for you, especially in this month of August.
There were lots to eat, drink, not forgetting the opportunity to show one's dancing skills. For some participants, the walk also served as an exercise for them. Star FM was established by AIB Network in 2014 and has since provided quality news broadcast, entertainment and sports shows with discussions on international news. With the station's mantra, simply the best, it is bent on serving its listeners with nothing but the best. For GH1 News,
and we say congratulations to our sister station, Star FM. And like you heard, it is a month-long celebration. Up next, we bring you international news. And on the international front tonight, Sudan's ruling military council and main opposition coalition have agreed on a constitutional declaration which will pave the way for a new period of transitional government. African Union mediator Mohamed Hassan Labad made the announcement early on Saturday without giving any details. Now, Sudan has been in turmoil since the military ousted President Umar al-Bashir in April. Protracted talks over the declaration have been held amid much violence. The long-awaited declaration deal triggered celebrations in Sudan, which has been plunged into months of crisis. Both sides signed a power-sharing accord in July, but demonstrators have been waiting since then for more details about the agreement. Protests first broke out in December after Bashir's government imposed emergency austerity measures. He was then overthrown by the military in April after prolonged protests outside the defense ministry in Khartoum. Demonstrators have since called for authority to be transferred to a civilian administration. All right, and that'll be it for the program this evening. Many thanks for your company. My name is Ridwan Karim Dini Osman. Don't forget, tomorrow we'll be back.
Mami, I go point Shramo. Last queen and better any a cray. Now, Mammy, dear, my fair. Now, my bed junior. This out training so nadia. 10 no war pepaya TV. It's the same person me fear near menina. High sense. And then one is this amount. Yet the people from here by a friend. High sense mega factory discount. Yet name of factory now. Yeah, take this to say. Now, if you wait, you know. I say August 1st. I copy August 15th. What? 20. And even now for that, and what's answer? Yeah, it so. I find this in there. Yeah, it so. Yeah, it so. That's cook and swear. Yeah, it so. Say, high sense factory in your menu now. Yeah, take this to say. Look what a woman say. Factory, yeah. And then when a young, yeah. High sense. Mammy, I go point Shramo. And my rate is say, 51st to 15th August, a high sense mega factory discount. Go to high sense showroom, and a game shop will be that's what you do. So when you say high sense there, everyday prices for everyday people.
Like every mother, I want my children to be strong. I want them bustling with enough energy to start the day,
taking part in everything that's happening around them. That's why I give them the richer and creamier Cadbury Rich Choco every day, and they love it.
Enjoy your deliciously rich and creamy Rich Choco made from the finest Ghanaian cocoa, milk and sugar.
Yummy.
Rich Choco made from the finest Ghanaian cocoa. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
GH1 TV, your best experience.
Give me an example.